That was not as fun. Yesterday was really fun. Today was not nearly as fun. It's funny how that works when you lose. Mariners do lose 9-4 to the Cleveland Guardians. The series is now even at one game apiece. Let's talk about how in the heck this happened. First of all, Robbie Ray started this game. And actually, he did walk a couple in the first inning, but he was able to get out of it with a very nice couple of strikeouts. And the Mariners got off to as good a start as you can ask for. Julio Rodriguez with a double, Colton Juan with a single, 1-0. Looked like the floodgates might be open against a not very good pitcher in Hunter Gaddis, who, gets a no decision in here, but did not pitch well whatsoever. Settled down a little bit, but not a great game. Then the second inning happens, and Ray loads the bases, including a 4-pitch walk to Mike Zunino, which should be legally impossible. I love Mike Zunino. I get why everybody else loves Mike Zunino. Not a good hitting person. Not a good hitting person is a funny thing to say, but he's not a good hitter, and he's a guy who has proven that he has very little want to walk. So a 4-pitch walk is very difficult to do. Very next batter is Miles Straw, who hits a sacrifice fly. Teoscar Hernandez throw hits Zunino in the elbow, a place he's been hit an awful lot in his career. That ends up leading to 2 runs after that, air on Hernandez. It wasn't a great throw, but there was definitely some bad luck there hitting Hernandez, hitting Zunino. Then Ray makes a bad throw to home plate that allows another run to score. And then another sac fly scores another run. It's 3-1 Cleveland in the top of the second. But Ray settled. Mariners don't get anything. Ray settles down, pitches well in the third, relatively. And then the Mariners get 2 runs from good old Big Dumper, a clutch double to tie the game at 3-3. Looked like everything was going to at least be back on track a little bit. It did not last long. Ray gives up another 2 runs, only goes 3 in the third in this one, gets pulled for Trevor Gott. Seattle does come back and score a run on a play that Colton Wong almost makes, and we'll talk about Wong here in a second. But it's 5-4, and from that point on, the Mariners do not score a run. They give up 3 in the 5th. Trevor got hurt by his defense, but did not pitch exactly well. They score an insurance run in the 8th, 9-4 in a game that Cleveland was the better baseball team in. And part of it was because the Mariners were a bad baseball team today. They were not a good baseball team today for the very most part. A couple guys had some nice days, but for the most part, this is bad. Look. We talked about how good Luis Castillo was yesterday. Phenomenal. Robbie Ray was just as bad. And it's frustrating because it wasn't like he gave up a ton of hard contact. There was very little hard contact, but his command was atrocious. No other way to put it. He did not have command of his pitches. And that is a lineup that will take advantage of that stuff because they are a very tough group to strike out. It's funny. The started out Ray striking out Stephen Kwan, one of the most difficult hitters to strike out. You kind of wondered if this was going to be the start of something ominous. Nope, vice versa. He has to pitch better than this. He has to be. He looked so good this spring, but he had no idea where anything was going tonight. And he wasn't just missing by a little bit tonight. He was off on his spots a lot. Trevor Gott wasn't good. Did get out of a little bit of the jam that Ray had created, but wasn't an impressive showing. 3 of those runs end up being unearned. But again, that doesn't mean that Gott was good. It just means the defense behind him was just as bad. Penn Murphy, so. Good job by Chris Flexen helping the bullpen. Throws the last 4 innings. That's nice to see. Saves the bullpen for the next couple of days. You love to see that. Didn't have to use any of the high leverage relievers if you're looking for positives. But man, I just keep going back to how disappointing Ray was tonight because I was really excited. And again, it's just one start. Might have been overthrowing a little bit, but man, oh man. I know that only 3 of the runs end up being earned here too. And there's another example of why ERA, extremely flawed stat, extremely flawed because Ray deserved the runs he gave up. Deserved run average is a better stat. And I think that they would probably go in line with how Robbie Ray pitched tonight. Offensively, nice night for Julio. Almost a really, really good night for Julio. Kid did have a big strikeout with a couple of runners on, but able to come up with a couple of extra base hits, scored a run, drove in a big run. Again, Stephen Kwan almost made a fantastic play on his double, but he didn't. Nice to see. Cal Raleigh, only the one hit, but it was a big one, scoring a couple of runs. Jared Kelenic, we got to talk about this one a little bit. Kelenic's double was awesome. It was one of my favorite plays of the game. I love seeing him make hard contact to the opposite field, because when he makes hard contact to the opposite field, he's just a completely different player, man. It's huge. We talked about it with Ty France, but it's even more important for Kelenic. And seeing him drive the baseball in that first at bat for a double, awesome to see. The next 3 at bats were awful. Flat out awful. Just not acceptable. This can't happen. There were 3 atrocious at bats from Kelenic. And I know he was looking change on one of those pitches, but he took a 92-mile-per-hour fastball or something along those lines right down the flipping middle. Down the middle. Can't happen. Cannot happen. We, the Seattle Mariners fans, and I, we'll call us we, they need him to be great. And great's not fair. They don't need him to be great. Wish I could edit that out, but I'm not going to. They need him to be, they can't have that. They can't have that. You cannot take that pitch in that situation. You can't. I'm sorry. If you're fooled and you were thinking that change was coming, got to foul it off. Got to foul it off and live another day. You can't take 92 down the middle. You can't. I don't care if you were looking for a gyro ball that you expected to break 45 feet the other way. You cannot take that pitch in that situation. Cooper Hummel, finally a designated hitter, got on base. I know it's game 2, but didn't look great. Crawford drew a walk, not a strong game. Teoscar Hernandez was also really bad today. Really bad today. And it comes down to, I know he did have that at bat where he fouled a bunch of pitches off. He fouled a bunch of hittable pitches off. Really hittable pitches. He has not done his job over these first 2 games. And the great thing is there's 162 more, but I can only talk about the first 2 games, and he has not looked good. It's been a bad start to his Mariner career. Plenty of time to change that, but this is not he will not write home about the first 2 games of his series with the Mariners, because it's been bad. It hasn't been good enough. Ty France reaching twice. That's great to see. Colton Wong reaching twice. Nice to see. But man, I just keep coming back to Kelenic and Ray, 2 guys who absolutely excelled this spring. And again, Kelenic did have the double, but 3 really, really bad at bats after that. And Ray just did not look good. Did not look good. Looked like the pitcher that he didn't look like the pitcher from last year. Last year's version of Ray, for the most part, was good. There were unbelievably frustrating moments because he just could not avoid the big inning. But for the most part, Robbie Ray was a very solid starting pitcher. Anything but that. And you have to remember that before 2021, there were people who were wondering if this career is over. It looked like one of those starts. Again, it's just 1 game. And I am still so optimistic about Ray because of what I saw this spring, mainly because he was hitting 97 and showing that wipeout slider. There was very little high velocity today, and there was even less wipeout sliders, and just no idea. 51 pitches out of 91 for strikes. Not going to get it done. It ends up not mattering too much because it was a 9-4, ends up being a 9-4 game. I didn't love going to Gott in that situation and leaving him in after. It's your worst reliever by a long shot. You still were pretty much in that game, and his poor pitching kind of took you out of it. Not great. But again, too, or not again, I haven't talked about it enough, I guess, today. The defense was awful. Awful. Like, yes, there was the errors. Those obviously are what shows up, and they end up having 3 today. But there was a bunch of stuff today that went bad. Bunch of stuff. And there were some balls hit up the middle, too. At least one that I know for sure I would want my shortstop to make. And he didn't. And it's something I'm going to be keeping track of all year because I know they love JP Crawford. And I get it. Great last name. And there's no doubt that he is a clubhouse cog. But is he a really good baseball player? I don't know. I really don't. And I lean towards no, especially with the way he looked defensively last year. So this was a tough one. This was a tough one. At least, thank goodness they got the win yesterday and that big home run by France and how well Luis Castillo played, because this would be one you could harp on for a little while. But ultimately, just the one loss. But sure would like to see him play better than they did today, because this looked like a bad baseball team on Friday night. What do you guys think? How bad was Ray? How concerned are you about Robbie Ray going forward? Does the spring training that he had matter to you at all? I think it probably should a little bit, but it's easy to forget about that with how bad he was tonight. Especially, gosh, the command was just awful. Wretched command. You don't get above a 20 grade if you walk Mike Zunino on 3 pitches. I'm sorry, you don't. You have earned your 20 grade command if you walk that dude on 3 pitches. But yeah, bummer. Tomorrow we've got Aaron Savale against Logan Gilbert. Obviously a very winnable matchup. Again, you're going to have winnable matchups. Even as bad as Ray was, we still have to look at it going forward that the Mariners are going to be favorites, at least in a little form, because of mostly because of their starting pitching. But wasn't good tonight, and the bullpen was just okay. A night after the bullpen was sensational, and this is 2 mediocre efforts from the offense. So, bummer. Was really hoping for 162-0. Could you imagine how great this channel would be if it was 162-0? Now 1 in 161 is in play. No, not really. But yeah, what do you guys think? And how concerned are you about Robbie Ray going forward? Tomorrow will be a better day.